I'm Craig Snyder, the President of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, and I'd like to welcome you all to our program here this afternoon. I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment to silence their electronic devices. However, we do encourage you to tweet about what you hear this afternoon, and also to like the World Affairs Council on Facebook. The Council would like to thank its cooperating organization for the afternoon, the Japan-America Society of Greater Philadelphia, and we welcome its members who have joined us here today. We also have a group of students from the University of Pennsylvania English Language programs here with us. We'd also like to welcome all of you. A generation ago, the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia's program schedule was filled with events concerning Japan. Best-selling books of the time proclaimed Japan as a new superpower and becoming, quote, #1, end quote, in the world. There was even a popular song in the 80s that joked that the entire Western world was, quote, turning Japanese. At the time, yes. At the time, American self-confidence was really profoundly shaken by the then surging Japanese economy and the sudden omnipresence in American lives of Japanese-made goods. Then came an economic downturn in Japan, and shortly thereafter, the sudden, much unanticipated, and in some ways unprecedented rise of China. So what is the Japanese place in the world today? How have the Japanese weathered the great economic transformation at home and in their part of the world? What is and should be the 21st century relationship between the United States and Japan? Joining the Council to discuss these and other questions is His Excellency Ichiro Fujisaki, the former ambassador of Japan to the United States from 2008 to 2012. Prior to that, Ambassador Fujisaki served as political minister in the Embassy of Japan in Washington from 1995 to 1999. As a diplomat, he's also served in Jakarta, Paris, and London. Prior to serving as ambassador of Japan to the United States, he served as ambassador to the United Nations and to the WTO in Geneva. While there, he served as chairman of the executive committee of the UN High Commissioner on Refugees. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Fujisaki.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It looks like more than half the people understand Japanese, so shall I speak in Japanese? Thank you very much for having me, because I retired from the Japanese Foreign Ministry on November the 30th, 2012. That's about 14 months ago. That day, I told my friends that now I can say anything. And my friends said that no one cares anymore. So thank you very much for having me today. I was here for 4.5 years, and that was a really great experience. I have gone to so many states, and as ambassador, I've been to 47 states out of 50, and that 47 included Hawaii and Alaska as well. But the rest of the three, I went when I was serving before, so I've been to all 50 states. And when I said 47 states to some of the Japanese U.S. Embassy staff in Tokyo, he said, "Oh, our ambassador John Roos has done 47 prefectures as well in Japan." So I said, that takes a little bit more time to go around the United States than to Japan. And every time I went, I tried to pick up some language, if I may say, different English in some states. And I tried to pick up from a taxi cab driver cab driver from airport to hotel. But the problem is that wherever you go, you say that taxi drivers would say, oh, this is the standard English. That's in Louisiana, or that's in North Dakota, or wherever you would say, you're told that this is the standard English in this country. So, but I tried to pick up some, and that was a very interesting experience. Three things that was most memorable. One was the earthquake. Second was Okinawa issue, U.S. base issue. Third was a cherry blossom. I'll talk a bit about each of it. 11. This was the biggest, most difficult experience I had in 40 years of my diplomatic life. Because Japan was in this area. We're not getting the information, but I had to go onto television. I had to go to discuss with the U.S. government, so it was not easy at all. But I was safe because there was enormous goodwill in this country. U.S. government, U.S. military, U.S. American churches, schools, people, kids, everyone rushed to help us. So we are coming back now, but that was with the help of people around the world, especially from this country. So I'm not a representative of Japan anymore, but here I would say that thank you very much, American friends, for helping us at the most difficult time in our recent history. Thank you. Second thing, this Okinawa issue. This is a marine base based in Okinawa. And there was an agreement to move this to the northern part of Okinawa because this base, marine base, is surrounded by many houses and schools, and it would be dangerous to be a helicopter base. So it was agreed, and slowly things were moving under the surface. And the new government came in 2009, September. And the Prime Minister had a prior commitment before coming into administration because he was an opposition leader. So he said, at least this should be out of Okinawa. Somewhere in Japan or somewhere outside of our country. It should be moved out. But he didn't have any commitment from any other prefectures. And no one wanted to take it. So there was a lot of row. In the end, it was decided to move to the same place that previous conservative governments had agreed. In that about 8 months or so, there was little difficult times. The two things I would, at that time, and now people say that, oh, this Prime Minister didn't have foresight, Prime Minister didn't have a very good planning. It's true, but at the same time, there was a lot of people in the United States as well as Japan who encouraged him. New York Times editorial wrote that we should listen more to Japanese leaders. There were Japanese people, pundits, who wrote that, hey, this is a small issue compared to big US-Japan relations. It's not right at all, because if you start saying if something is small in your commitment, it could change the whole nature of the commitment. you could start saying, hey, this island is small, so I'm not going to honor that commitment. Second reason, if something goes up to Secretary of State or President, it's no more a small commitment anymore, small issue. So they were misleading with, so I will just say that probably. Now the Cherry Blossom Festival, that was 100 years of, when I was there in 2012 was a centennial of Cherry Blossom, and we had a huge ceremony, and I was lucky to be there. But maybe I shouldn't be saying too much about Cherry Blossom in 100 years, because you have a longer history here in Philadelphia. So is that 104 years or 105 years already, this city having cherry blossoms?
90 years.
Now, thank you very much. I talk a little bit about economy and security policy, diplomatic policy, where we are and our problems. Economic side. Yes, as you know, there was a change a year ago in Japan, and a new government is now trying to get out of deflation, which was there for 20 years. And Prime Minister Abe is making a remarkable progress. At the same time, I for one believe that people have exaggerated our weakness a little too long. People said lost 2 decades. We were stagnant. But if you look at how this 20 years was, there was a big change around 2000 when Prime Minister Koizumi came in and started to deregulate the economy, bring in de-restriction in order to meet globalization. From 2003 to 2007, 5 years, our economic growth was, GDP was 1.8%. European Union was 2.1, US was 2.7. So it was about 1% in rate, difference in rate. So we were not that behind at that time. However, as you know, in 2008, there came a huge economic setback, starting from Wall Street, what you call Lehman crisis. We were not the startup, but Japan suffered most. Why? Because our productions, automobile or camera or television, you can wait to buy. Your production, food, energy, you have to consume every day. So our industrial output went down by 22%. Our export went down by 33%. Our GDP went down by minus 5.5%, lowest in 50 years. So that was the effect of Lehman shock. And then we started to pick up again in 2009, 2010. And then in 2010, our GDP growth was at 4% level. And then came 2011 earthquake. So I would not attribute everything to external causes, but we have to recall that as well. But Abe-san, Prime Minister, has brought in sort of what he called 3 arrows. One, financial deregulation and trying to increase monetary flow by around $60 billion to $70 billion. Second, public spending, the extraordinary budget of 10 billion, and those have worked up till now. And stock price has gone over more than 30%, and yen has go down more than 15%. So that has given a positive kick to the Japanese economy until now. Now, the Japanese government is working on the 3rd arrow of deregulation, restriction, and I think TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiation, we hope will have a good effect on that. The negotiation has not come to agreement yet. The biggest problem that we are facing is one, how to deal with the decrease in population. Second, how to do with the nuclear power. We were number 3 in the world. Number 1 is United States, more than 100 nuclear power plants. Number 2 was France with 57. Japan had 54 nuclear power plants. We were number 1 in the velocity or increasing the nuclear use, because in the last 30 years, after 3 months, US made no nuclear power plant on the soil up until Obama administration. Japan made 29 in the last 30 years, number 1. So we were really going to depend on it. Now, after this earthquake and nuclear accident, none out of 54, 0 is operating. And now we have to decide, are we going to restart those who are stopped? Some of them, not all of them, but can we start is now the problem. This is the second problem. Third problem is, as I described, this third arrow, or the deregulation. Can we really prepare something that is substantial, that could not disappoint the market? We have to look at it this year, this summer. These are the 3 issues. Now, on diplomatic front, we have our relations with most of the countries are quite good. That is the reason that people agreed to have Olympic Games again in 2020. However, it is true that our relations with our friends, neighbors, Republic of Korea and China, has soured after Prime Minister Abe came into power. Because these countries, China and Korea, thinks that PM Abe's government, especially himself, is trying to revisit World War II and not continue the policy of apology to other countries on this issue. There are tensions, frictions with China and Korea. We hope that this will be solved in due time. US is worried, so they showed disappointment when Prime Minister went to Yasukuni Shrine last December. One thing that we should not forget is that although history issue is very important, not trying to neglect it, but let us not be swayed by that issue. That is that, as you have seen what Russia has done to Ukraine, there are still some countries who are using power to change the status quo. China's military buildup is spectacular. In the last 24 years, it is 30 times more than before. And it's number 2 in the world now, it's military buildup. Japan and US always says that we need more transparency in China's military buildup. I, for one, think that's a little too courteous to use that word. We are disturbed by sheer size. When I was in Beijing last October, I raised this issue in open symposium with ex-officials of Chinese military and Chinese government. My question was, why are you increasing military spending every year by more than 10% for the last 20 years? Answer. It corresponds with the size of GDP. Our GDP is growing more than 7-8%. Our military spending is correspondingly increasing. Do you know that this is Chinese side saying that Japan was spending more than 10% when the economy was good, and that 1 year it was more than 23% increase in defense spending? My answer, but that was when Japan military defense spending was 1/4 of what it is. But now China is number 2 already in the world. Why do you need to spend so much when 100 million of Chinese, our income is limited to less than $1 a day? We have so much poverty still. The answer was that we have now so many Chinese people around the world, and we have a lot of economic interest. My answer was, if you're saying that you have a lot of Chinese and you have economic interest, so you need a big, strong economy, that's exactly the logic that Japanese Imperial Army used before the war. And it went on and on. But what I'm stressing is that there are countries like Japan, United States, Republic of Korea, Australia, ASEAN countries, who thinks peace and stability in Asia Pacific is kept by US prisons, US forces. That you are there in Hawaii, Guam, Okinawa, in Japan, that has been the source of stability. There are some countries who don't think that. So, of course, history is important, but we should not lose the sight of that as well. And I hope that President Obama's visit in April would be a good chance to strengthen Japan-US relations. Put it on the right track. Before this lunch, at the reception, I was asked, what I'm now after retirement, what are you? I'm a college professor, and I was asked what I'm teaching in college. I said, I'm trying to teach behind the lines, between the lines. What? Don't believe, for example, everything Obama says, or Putin says, or Abe says. You have to read between the lines. That's one thing. Second thing, make short presentation. Don't make long presentation to bore people. And that is what I'm teaching, so I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
We're going to have plenty of time for questions and answers if people will come to the microphone. Let me, while we have people gathering, let me start with a question. Mr. Ambassador, you said that now that you are retired, you can speak more freely, you can say anything. So let me ask you a little bit of, potentially of a tough question. The United States and Japan have a mutual defense pact. The United States has pledged by law to come to the defense of Japan. At the same time, you see shrinking defense budgets in the United States. It was recently announced that we will be moving to an army smaller than at any time since before World War II. We have a Navy that's now smaller than at any time since before World War I. Do people in Tokyo worry about the ability and the willingness of the United States to ever honor that commitment should it be necessary?
Is this on, or shall I speak there?
It's on.
It's on. It's on.
Can you hear me? Okay. Now, one thing is the size of budget, of course. The second thing is its distribution. Chuck Hagel, the Secretary of Defense, recently said he's going to move his Navy more to Asia Pacific. And this pivot or trying to Okay, I'll speak.
Okay, sorry.
If the gravity or of your military is in this region of Asia Pacific, which you think is the most important region, I think people would not. And importance in this kind of defense is psychology. Not only this budget, or so if you would continue to express your strong willingness to defend your allies, that is most important. For example, it was very important for the United States to say that Senkakus, which is in dispute between Japan and China, you will come to defend it. It's under Article 5 of the Japanese Security Arrangement. This is said by Clinton, Hagel, Gates, Kerry. It was very important for them because that would be a deterrence against China. And if those things are kept set, and if you would focus on Asia Pacific, I think people will feel that they can place confidence in the United States, and that's very important because if the Japanese feel that, hey, we cannot put too much confidence on the United States, then we have to change our basic defense policy. And that is not, I think, what the United States or any other country would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, if anyone would like to go to the microphone?
I think you can hear me from here, Ambassador. Can you or not?
I can, but
Okay,
the
go
rest
there.
of
All right.
people.
Good afternoon. That was an excellent speech. We met at the reception. You know, I'm a professor of political science and Holy Families, even read there. I grew up, however, in Montana. Now, you were in Montana, I presume, is that right? Of the 47 states? Have you been to Montana?
Yeah, your good senator has invited.
That's the question. Thank you very much.
Ambassador to China now has invited me over, and so I was there, yes.
Yes, good. Montana and Japan have had very strong relations overall. Yes, Max Baucus is currently the new ambassador to China, former senator from Montana. And from the Japanese side, however, you had a more even prestigious former ambassador and former senator from Montana. That would be, of course, Mike Mansfield. Mike was a longtime advocate of Asian studies in Japan. So my question is, did you know him? Did you know Mike Mansfield? And from what we were taught in Montana, he was highly revered by Japanese. And is that true? It's more of a personal question, I guess, but did you know Mike Mansfield? And I obviously know Senator Baucus, so thank you very much.
First of all, Max Baucus, he was a very special senator. It was, he invited several ambassadors, not every year, but every 2 years or so, to his state. And some senators do that, 2 or 3 days visit. And I was invited with ambassador of China, and ambassador of Chile, and ambassador of Ireland, and several ambassadors went. And the very special thing is that he accompanied us all the way from breakfast to dinner to sightseeing and everything. And so I thought, hey, this is a great senator. Often you're invited and he just shows up for reception and it just goes away for a toast or something. But so he was very pleasant. Now, Mike Mansfield, when he was ambassador, I was too junior to even have a glimpse of him. But after he retired and he was at Goldman Sachs in Washington, D.C., I was an embassy staff in Washington. Not the ambassador, but I was a political minister. And I had a chance to visit his office. And what was amazing was that he stood up and made coffee for us and Byrd, the Senate Majority Leader, an ambassador, tried to do that for all the visitors. That was really amazing. But that was not, I was told that that's not special. He was doing that for everyone. Mm-hmm. And when I retired, and I'm now a college professor, I thought, hey, I'll do that. And now I have a coffee time in my college, in my office, and any student can come, and I'll make coffee and burn that. But I'm not Mike Mansfield, so if people are not as impressed as Mike Mansfield burn coffee, they say, hey, this coffee's not so good. That's what
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ambassador, thank you very That doesn't work. Okay, I'll just speak out loud. So, thank you very much for a great talk. Really enjoyed it. I have kind of 3 questions for you. And my first question has to do with your statement that the population of Japan is actually decreasing. I wondered why you thought that was happening, why the population is decreasing since across the world, the populations in most countries is increasing. My second question is, I'm involved in healthcare. I work at Jefferson Hospital about 2 blocks away from here. And I was wondering, with the GDP, you mentioned the GDP in Japan is that one's going down. What is the percentage of the GDP involved in healthcare in Japan? Is it going up or is it going down? And do you view healthcare as a plus to the economy or as a drag to the economy? And we'll note that, for example, in this country we talk about CAT scans and MRIs per patient. And the one country that beats us in the number of CAT scans and MRIs per patient is Japan. And my third question just has to do with your statement about between the lines. I just wondered if you could, like maybe with Obama and with Putin or anybody else, give us an example of what's been said and then what they're really saying between the lines.
Well, rather delicate. Now, population, was it decreasing? Why is it decreasing? I think younger people don't get married that soon and don't have too many children. So that's the reason. And our population birth rate is now 1.3. You need 2.0 to reproduce the population, so it has gone to so low level. And in very rough figure, after the World War II, 7 years ago, Japan's population was between 60 million and 70 million, and now it's 120 million. So it's roughly doubled in 6 years, and now it's going down. So we are facing the big difficulty of how we can sustain the welfare system. Of course, our welfare system is pretty well accomplished, and it's very difficult to keep it when the population is growing, because younger people are fewer than senior people. Population over 65 in this country is about 15%. In my country, it's 25% already. So there's nothing wrong about over 65. I'm over 65 as well. So, however, for social welfare, it's a very tough issue, and trying to increase it by having facilities for working women to have babies. At the same time, I personally feel that 120 million in a small land is a little too many as well. So we have to strike the right balance, because Japan is the size of California. 80% is mountain. So it's a small strip of land, and we have 40% of US population there. So as anyone who has visited Japan knows, it's a very crowded country. So I don't know what's the right balance, but for the transition period, we have to find some way. Second, healthcare system. Thank you very much. We have a universal healthcare system, and I think that is a reflection of the thinking of not only Japanese side, but the US occupation army. I was told that, I haven't really studied this myself, but when MacArthur's occupation army came to Japan, they thought the Japanese Imperial Army, together with big landowners and big corporations, have been the engine for the World War II. So they tried to dissolve the big corporations and also strip the land from the big landowners and give it to farmers, and in a way, and try to fix the tax system so that everyone would have equal huge inheritance tax. So Japan became, some people say, one of the socialist society where no one is so rich, no one is so poor, everyone's average. That is reflected on bringing in the universal healthcare so early in our system, and we have enjoyed that for years. Thirdly, as for reading minds, if I may say, for example, when President Obama came into administration in 2009, he made a Cairo speech and said he'll work on Middle East peace. He made a speech in Prague, Czech, to say that he'll aim at non-nuclear world. Maybe that would not arrive when he's still alive, but he will work on that. And some people said, hey, Middle East peace is coming, and hey, there's going to be a nuclear-free world. That doesn't arrive that so quickly. Everyone who can read politics or between the lines would know this is a very long time sort of objective, but you don't really work on the assumption of that coming that soon. And these are things like that as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Minju Kwon. I'm from Korea now. I'm studying in English language program at UPenn. I have kind of three questions. So one is, how did you decide to be an ambassador at first? And another one is kind of like a broad question. And when you were be an ambassador, what was your dream? And third one is, did you achieve your dream? And last one is, now you're retired ambassador, so what is your new dream? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Why did I want to become an diplomat? I wanted to do things in the public service rather than work for a private corporation. And in Japan at that time, defense, becoming a military was not that popular, and I thought a diplomat would be more interesting. My father happened to be in diplomacy as well, but that's one of the main reasons that to work for public diplomacy, a public service for the government was my motive. And I worked 43 years in Japanese government. And I was very lucky to be ambassador to first to Geneva, where you would be dealing with international organizations, including World Trade Organizations. It's a lot of nitty-gritty, very detailed negotiations every day. And then to the United States, it's very different now, more political in a sense. And it's the most important ally for us. Furthermore, everything goes through Washington, really. Iran issue, Korean issue, China, Middle East. So I was on top of that and trying to follow all the issues, trade or politics, and that was very interesting. It was not that easy to also, but when you're in one position in government or in corporation, there are things that you can do a lot, and once you leave that post, you cannot do that. So what I was always thinking is to do everything I can to grasp this rare opportunity that I've given, to do everything I can while I'm there. So that's why I went around all these states and gave speeches and meet so many people, and I enjoyed it very much. Lastly, now I'm retired. I thought I was lucky because I retired at the age of 65, and if I retired at the age of 70, I'm sorry for those people over 70. It's not easy to start something new, maybe. But at my age of 65, I was able to start something new as well. And I became professors. I became, I said sirs, because I'm professor of two universities. I am director of some of the company boards, and I'm president of the Japan American Society. And I enjoy meeting students like you and young students, pouring coffee and having meetings every day. And I enjoy the different, if once is all, life is only once. You don't want to spend doing the same thing all and end your life just knowing one life, one word. So I'm enjoying that second phase of my job. Thank you. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but this is what. Thank you.
Yes, can you tell me why Prime Minister Abe visited the shrine? Didn't he realize what it would create in China and Japan and Korea?
I think so. I think he would have known that a lot of people have, I think, told him that this would not be welcomed in our neighbors or in this country as well. He knew that, but he thought that he, as a prime minister, should show respect to all those people who have lost their lives for the country. It's not only for the prisoners, the war criminals, but there's more than 2.6 million people who are enshrined there, and he wanted to express. Now, there are divided views in Japan. Some people support him, some people do not support him. And I try to find the right polls, but the polls differ so much from the newspapers or televisions. It's like Fox television polls and CNN polls or whatever, so I can't find which is the right one, but I can say that it's divided. But it's also true that when it is criticized, then people sort of try to have the same sort of feeling that why no? Why couldn't he do that? But in reality, people are divided. I can't speak on behalf of him on that issue. Thank you very much.
Let me go there. I truly appreciate your coming here as a Japanese citizen living in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for coming to this town. I lived for 35 years. Two questions. Now, you must have been born in 1947 or 8. You lived through this period from nothing to the Japan as #1, and then going through the declining process again. What is your projection about 2050, for instance, that a population we project will go down to 80 million again? How Japan will look like for us then, US, China, Japan, especially Asia? Second question, most of the young people, Japanese here, have no idea what we went through. I'm much closer to your generation. How the bubble started, how Japan, Japanese, were so proud of ourselves, especially the economic growth in the last so many decades. Now we have to go to this rate of going down. No matter how much we try, population will decline, our economic status, global status will decline accordingly. So what would you like to tell us, these young generations in Japan, as a professor or retired ambassador to the United States, to do?
Thank you very much. Yes, as you have predicted, I was born in 1947. I hope that people would say, no, he looks born in 1967. I was born in 47, and I have seen sort of ups and downs. But very frankly, I thought many of those were sort of created self-confidence. Ezra Vogel of Harvard wrote Japan is #1. I don't know if you really believe that, but the book sold so well, if you were in Japan especially. So these things are exaggerated a lot. And also, as I said about the two lost generation, it's again a bit of exaggeration. If you go to Tokyo, you see that all the buildings have risen in the last 20 years. Tokyo has become a lot more cleaner, beautiful in the last 20 years. So if you look at the reality, it's not that, it was not that good, it's not that bad. So I always think that
Time for one more question, if anyone would like. Please.
Thank you for speech, and I'm also the student of the European English language. And as you mentioned in the speech, the nuclear problem is a big issue in Japan. And I'm a Japanese, and in my country, the mass media broadcast about this issue every day. And my question is, how is the American think about these topics? Maybe I can ask you all of this. I'd like to ask you about this question.
The difference with the United States is that this is a huge country. And I said this is #1 country of nuclear power plants with 107 power plants, but you don't see them that much because the land is huge. Second, you don't have too many earthquakes in this country. So you're not so worried about nuclear power plants. In Japan, it's a small country. So if one prefecture gives the right to establish nuclear power plants, there's 12 or so nuclear power plants built next to each other. It's almost like a Japanese train where people are pushing each other. The nuclear power plants are built so closely to each other. So once an accident happens, it's become so dangerous. And there's earthquake as well, and tsunami. So people are a lot more concerned in Japan. And here, of course, 3 months have happened 30 years ago, but that was not that serious as compared to what we have seen. And also, because of this difference in land, I don't think people here are that much, so much concerned as Japanese on this nuclear power. And still, for example, Japan was dependent 25% to 26% on nuclear for its electricity. US was 19%. US is 19%. But now you have a lot of shell coming out as well. So I think people are far more, in a way, relaxed about this energy issue. Of course, there's an issue in California and somewhere else. But nationwide, it's not a huge issue now. That's how I look at it. But I think some Americans are in a better position to answer about the United States.
Mr. Ambassador, we thank you, and we thank all of you for coming.
Thank you very much.